So, Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to our continuous study of the Bhagavad-gītā. And this time we are very, very pleased to have His Grace Mahatma Prabhu with us. Most of you may know him. Those of you who don't, he is a writer, an author, a speaker, a mentor, a guide. And he, for example, has written this book. Some of you may have it. I happen to have it at home. I got it in Mayapur a long time ago, some years ago. Very interesting, nice layout, easy to understand, practical, and you can read the different sections while you are on the subway or somewhere in public transport. And I think today's lecture will also be very interesting and relevant, and we're looking forward to it. Hare Krishna, I hand over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you. So I guess there's no translation.
No, there is it would be technically possible, but difficult to arrange. I have done these things in the past, not in a lecture, but yeah, people do ask us occasionally if this is possible, but it really isn't practical for us. So
okay.
It all will be in English.
So I don't have to speak in German.
No.
Okay. Ja, good. Because that's all I can say. And Dankeschön and what? Guten Tag. And that's about it. Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sanyavari Paschati Dasatani Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Welcome to all of you. It's nice to see you, or at least see your name. If you're so inclined to give me your darshan, I also would accept that. And it's, as you know, speaking to a computer is an unusual experience. Speaking to an audience is obviously more inspiring. Of course, I've become used to speaking to a computer. But Zoom is nice because we can see you if you are in a presentable position. It's nice. Is this being shown on Facebook? No, just on Zoom. It's being recorded. So I would like to chant the Sanskrit, and the best way to do that is keep yourself muted, and I will give you time to chant the Sanskrit. I will pause after each line. Maybe chant it a few times, and if you go to the chat, you can click on and you will get the database online. And this Bhagavad-gītā, there's two chapters of Bhagavad-gītā that are titled Karma Yoga. This chapter is specifically focusing on a little more about renunciation, or maybe we can say going further into the concept of how to become renounced. Sannyāsas tu mahā-bāho duḥkham āptum ayogataḥ yoga-yukto munir brahma cireṇādhigacchati sannyāsas tu mahā-bāho duḥkham āptum ayogataḥ yoga-yukto munir brahma cireṇādhigacchati sannyāsas tu mahā-bāho duḥkham āptum ayogataḥ yoga-yukto munir brahma cireṇādhigacchati. So we will do the word meanings. Let's not do repeating on the word meanings. I will just say them, and then we'll read the translation and go through the purport. Sannyāsaḥ, the renounced order of life. To but. Mahā-bāho, O mighty armed one. Duḥkham, distress. Āptum, afflicts one with. Ayogataḥ, without devotional service. Yoga-yuktaḥ, one engaged in devotional service. Muniḥ, a thinker. Brahma, the supreme. Na cireṇa, without delay. Adhigacchati, attains. Translation. Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. So let's just read it all together. I won't hear you. You won't hear anyone. But I think it's good to read again. So you can read along with me. Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. So before I read the purport, I want to explain a little bit about the context of this. Krishna is addressing a conception, an idea that is prevalent at the time, and it's still prevalent today. And any good communicator is aware of what people are thinking, and he or she addresses what they're thinking. Because if he or she doesn't, you can teach something, but it may not address a misconception. I can tell you something that's good, but you still may have a misconception. So of course, Krishna knows all the misconceptions, right? So this is a prominent misconception that if you're renounced, then you would not engage in activity. Specifically, you would engage in meditation, and more specifically, you would engage in deliberation on books like Vedanta Sutra, on philosophy. You would engage in a lot of study. And the reason is because in that way of thinking, or that school of practice, you become detached through knowledge. Just like all of us who have become devotees or who are becoming devotees, we understood there was something wrong. Something's not right here. It's just, there's too much suffering. And so that knowledge was bringing us to spiritual life. And elsewhere, after becoming devotees, we read things like Brahma, Bhuvana, Loka, Punar, Avartino, Arjuna. The material world's a place of suffering. There is a spiritual world, there's no suffering. So contrast. Isopanishad says, Vidyam chayas. Know what is eternal, know what's temporary. You make contrast. Hey, this looks good. This phone will last eternally. This phone will be obsolete in a few years. Which phone do you want? This way of life will give you eternal life. This one won't. Which one do you want? So knowledge is like that. You think, okay, I want the one that's eternal, Brahma. Okay, so I'm going to renounce everything else that is not eternal. So the knowledge gives you strength. This is bad, this is bad, this is bad, don't do it. The problem is, and what Krishna is saying in this verse, is that that doesn't work permanently. It only works temporarily. Or for us, it works, but it's because it's not the only thing we have going, right? We have devotional service. So Krishna is saying, you can't be renounced if you don't have devotional service. Knowledge will help you become renounced, but it's not going to last, because just knowing, how many times have you eaten something that you knew was bad for you? You've lost count, right? How many times have you done something that you told yourself, I will never, ever, ever, ever ever do this again. All right, you lost count, right? So that's what Krishna is saying, that, okay, I'm never going to eat this, but if I don't have something better to eat, I don't really have a choice because I have to eat something, right? So that's really what Krishna is saying. You will stop eating this food, which is not good for you, when you can make something that's good for you that tastes even better and makes you feel better. But just by knowing it's bad for you, you have to be extremely intelligent, extremely determined, and you have to have 108 good reasons to do it. Otherwise, forget it. And you need good association. And so, as I said, we're not discounting the value of knowledge. We have lots of knowledge telling us what's good and bad. But until you experience what it's like to do something better, if you're only trying to give up, then all we can say is good luck. We'll see you when you spin around. We'll just catch you on the way down. Okay, good luck. You made it to the top. I'll catch you on the way down. Because once you get to the top, if you don't have anything to do, you're going to come back down. So that's the context. So now when we read the purport, Prabhupada's just explaining that in the purport, it'll make sense. And then we'll take it also in a few other directions, because I think this purport is directly addressing Mayavad philosophy. It's very specific. And so we'll try to make it broaden it a little bit to what may be specific for us. There are two classes of sannyasis, or persons in the renounced order of life. The Mayavadi sannyasis are engaged in the study of Shankha philosophy. Shankha means, this is good, this is bad. Just knowledge that will lead to renunciation. And whereas the Vaishnava sannyasis are engaged in the study of Bhagavatam philosophy, which affords the proper commentary on the Vedanta. So Vedanta is without Krishna. Krishna Lila is not in Vedanta. It's more meant to, as we said, bring one to a renounced platform. And so the Vaishnava sannyasis, it's all about rasa. It's not about jnana, it's about relishing. Jnana is there, but it's knowledge is to lead us into a relationship. Knowledge is not the ends to renunciation. The relationship is what leads to renunciation. The Mayavadi sannyasis also studied Vedanta sutras, but used their own commentary called Sharirika Bhashya, written by Shankar Acharya. It's completely impersonal commentary. The students of the Bhagavat school are engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, according to the Pancharatriki regulations, and therefore, the Vaishnava sannyasis have multiple engagements in the transcendental service of the Lord. The Vaishnava sannyasis have nothing to do with material activities, and yet they perform various activities in their devotional service to the Lord. Okay, so I want to stop here. Well, let me read one more. But the Mayavadi sannyasis engaged in the studies of Sankhya and Vedanta and speculation cannot relish the transcendental service of the Lord. Yeah, so they're basically, they put themselves in an impossible situation, because basically what they've decided to do is not eat the sweet because it's not good for you. And they've got nothing else to eat for dessert, No dates, grind up some nuts. You ever do that? Grind up some nuts, mix them with some dates, some carob powder, or if you're brave, some cocoa powder, some coconut. And that's an alternative to your, fully sugarized sweet. But they don't have that. So they're just giving up the unhealthy sweet, and they have no sweet. So, and they don't understand, because they don't think Krishna is a person. So they don't understand rasa. So you remember the story, Lord Chaitanya went to Benares, and he had two disciples, Chandrasekhar and Tapan Mishra, and they went to Lord Chaitanya and said, these Mayavadis here, Benares is like the headquarters for sannyasis, all the Mayavadi impersonalist sannyasis. And they said, they're all criticizing you because you dance and chant. And Mayavad sannyasis, they discuss Vedanta philosophy. Chanting and dancing to them is like, that's like, what materialistic people do. So can you speak to them? So Lord Chaitanya was on his way to Vrindavan. He said, when I come back, I'll speak to them. And they couldn't defeat them. They didn't have the ability. So they said, Lord Chaitanya, you need to speak to them. So Lord Chaitanya agreed. And one of the first things they said is, you're a sannyasi, so why are you singing and dancing with a bunch of sentimental people? You know what sentimental means? You don't know anything. You just feel. Oh, it feels so good. No, but it's poison. But it looks so beautiful. No, but it's going to kill you. Yeah, but it smells so good. That's how they, right? Sentiment is just, you just go with how it feels. I know it's bad for me, but I just feel like I have to do it. It's my calling. That's how they look at bhakti. Is like, bhakti is good for grandmothers and their grandchildren, who they don't care about philosophy. Philosophy is for the guys, the scholars. I mean, that's the culture, right? Traditionally, women were not big scholars. It was all the guys or scholars. And so real scholarship is Vedanta, the end of knowledge. And you don't even read Vedanta, and you just chant, you go out in the street and chant and dance. Like, what's going on here? They're asking him, like, I mean, singing, dancing, yeah, but these people you're hanging out with, they're sentimentalists. So the idea was, and it became more prominent later on, that those engaged in bhakti are not intellectual. They're just sentimentalists. Oh, Rasa, Radha, and Krishna. They're like, what do you call those people? I don't know what you call them in Germany. In America, we call them dingbats. You use that word? You've heard that word before? Dingbat. It's like they can't think straight, They just chant Hare Krishna, That's like what they used to think. We're a cult. We're all losers. We just chant. Our brains stopped working. We got brainwashed. Our brains just went. And we were just told what to do, and we just chant like zombies. Not that bad, but something like that. So of course we have Bhakti Vedanta. Our philosophy is you get Vedanta from Bhakti, you get Vairagya from Bhakti, but they don't think like they think you get it from knowledge. And our philosophy is knowledge also you get from Bhakti. You get it all from Bhakti. And their ideas, you merge in Brahman by knowledge. So they're like, so they see Lord Chaitanya, and if we were to do this in modern terms, they would say, hey, Swami, what's up? What's up with the dancing? If you're making a modern movie, that's kind of what happened, But of course, they're cultured people and respectful and so forth. So it didn't come out exactly like that, but a little bit like that. Like, what's up with the dancing? Come on, you're a sannyasi. Like, what's going on here? Like, we don't get it. And then Lord Chaitanya just like threw a pie in their face, he said, my spiritual master said, I can't understand Vedanta. Now, why was that a pie? Because Nimai Pandit, before he took sannyas, was the greatest scholar in India. Nobody could defeat him. And now his guru is saying, here, you're the greatest scholar in India. Keshava Kashmiri came, he tried to defeat you. You ran circles around him and embarrassed him. And he recited 100 verses, and you memorized every verse, and you told him what was wrong. With all the verses that were wrong, you pointed out the details. Like, yeah, and you can even defeat an argument and defeat the argument that was the argument that you just made. You can run circles around, because that's the how it is, right? You go on, academia. If you like to think and speculate, become a professor. You get paid for it. It's great, You don't have to come up with any conclusions. You just have to think. So that's what was going, isn't it? Like I was listening to a devotee, an academic, and my mind's going, And at the end of the talk, I was like, what did he say? And basically he said, we need to discuss this. The conclusion, more discussion, because it could be this or it could be that. So, you know, that's where they're coming from. Like discuss, we need to go deeper in discussion. So here, Lord Chaitanya, he could discuss with anybody and he could defeat anybody, and he could even defeat his own arguments. He'll make an argument and I go, I will defeat you with this argument. Then he proposes an argument, then he defeats that argument that he just defeated you with. You know, like that's what scholars do, right? Here's the latest argument. Then he'll defeat that one again. And then he goes to these Mayavadis and he says, well, actually, my guru said I was a fool and I couldn't understand Vedanta. Oh my God, you know, it's like, isn't that insane? The greatest scholar in India saying I can't understand Vedanta. What a pie in the face of the Mayavads, isn't it? So he said, he told me to chant Hare Krishna and dance. And what's the conclusion? That's the conclusion of Bhagavatam, to glorify Krishna. That's the Vedanta of Bhagavatam, isn't it? The last verse of Bhagavatam says Sankirtan. It's got the word Sankirtan in it. So he's saying, so if it were colloquial, we go, okay, guys, I understand you don't understand what I'm doing, but just check this out, you know, chant Hare Krishna and you will understand everything. So he went through the whole philosophy. He completely explained everything. And they all said, hey, you know what? Can we become your disciples? Because you got us. You know, we're defeated. Because in those days, if you were defeated, you wouldn't run off on a huff and puff and go, blah, 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 you know. In those days, when you get defeated, you become the disciple. You know what it's like today, you know. Do you ever see these conversations where someone's getting defeated and they won't admit it? You ever seen that? And they're just going on and on, making the same stupid argument, and they continually get defeated, right? It just goes around. You ever seen that? Well, in a cultured society, that doesn't happen. When you get defeated, you surrender. So there were about 60,000 of them, and they surrendered to Lord Chaitanya. So this was a Leela of Lord Chaitanya to prove exactly what's in this purport, that this Vedanta stuff, it's going nowhere fast, basically. You know, you're just going to hit a wall, you know. You're never going to get out of the material world. You'll get a temporary vacation into Brahman, but you'll come back. Why will you come back? You're bored. There's nothing to do. You know, solitary confinement in bliss. You know, like, well, I don't know. It's kind of an oxymoron, right? You're going to go and merchant Brahman. It's so blissful, but you're just one particle of soul merged into a million particles, and there's no relationship with anybody. It's all one, you know, and you eventually go crazy. You go, get me out of here. Oh, I thought it was blissful. Get me out of here. I have to do something. Solitary confinement drives people crazy, doesn't it? It's like, that's the highest form of imprisonment. It's like the greatest torture. To be alone with yourself, what could be worse than that, right? Just you and your mind. That's like a horror movie on steroids, right? Don't lock me up alone in this room, just me and my mind. I'll kill myself. So, you know, so it's something like that. So, well, maybe not exactly like that, but Prabhupada's saying they go crazy. They have to do something because the soul is active. So now when we read the purport, the rest of the purport, I think we'll understand it better. The Vaishnava sannyasis have nothing to do with material activities. We're down about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. And yet they perform various activities in their devotional service to the Lord. But the Mayavadi sannyasis engaged in the studies of Sankhya and Vedanta and speculation cannot relish the transcendental service of the Lord. Because their studies become very tedious, they sometimes become tired of Brahman speculation, and thus they take shelter of the Bhagavatam. Nice. Without proper understanding, not nice. Consequently, their study of the Srimad Bhagavatam becomes troublesome. If you're trying to prove Krishna is not a person by studying the Bhagavatam, yeah, that's going to be troublesome. Dry speculations and impersonal interpretations by artificial means are all useless. for the Mayavadi sannyāsas. The Vaishnava sannyasis who are engaged in devotional service are happy in the discharge of their transcendental duties, and they have the guarantee of ultimate entrance into the kingdom of God. Now, I want to tell a story. You know this story, but I want to meditate on this story. Thakur Haridas, on 2 occasions, he was tempted, or the attempt was made to get him to fall down, to defame him. Because in India, especially at that time, if you are a sadhu, you become famous. If you're actually a real sadhu, people will worship you. And there was one very envious person who didn't like it that Thakur Haridas was being worshipped. And lots of the Muslims didn't like it because Thakur Haridas was born Muslim. And now Muslims become a Hindu. And they're like, all you other Hindus, don't do this. Excuse me, other Muslims, don't become a Hindu. They're thinking he's Hindu. So anyway, one envious man, he hired a prostitute and said, can you get him to fall down? And she said, sure, no problem. I'm good at this stuff. And they didn't have video cameras or anything, but they were going to catch him in the act, right? And so we know the story. He knew what was going on. She came. He didn't say, no, thank you, just leave. He thought, okay, we'll make her a devotee. So he just made an excuse. I would love to make love with you once I finish my rounds. And, he'd chant all night and go, I'm sorry, I didn't finish it, but for sure tomorrow I'll finish. And so you know the story. She started chanting. I mean, you don't have to spend much time with Thakur Haridas to become purified. You could imagine, right? You hear him chanting. Wow, that should be a few hours and you're finished. Your material life is gone, cleansed, So, she came back and she was chanting, and then she got purified, and she said, I forget who sent her. Who was the person? Does anybody remember his name? Someone hired her. I forgot his name. But anyway, she said, I was hired to do this. And he said, I know. I just did this for your benefit. Otherwise, I would have left. As soon as you came, I would have left. I have no business hanging out with a woman alone at night. I did it for you. And he said, you just stay here now. You have my hut. Here's the tulsi plant I was sitting in front of. You just chant. So then the second story. Then Maya personified came. What's a prostitute in comparison to Maya personified? Nothing. That's prostitute. Forget it. But then Maya personified comes. Would you like to meet Maya personified when she's coming as the most attractive thing, the most beautiful member of the opposite sex? All I could say to you is, good luck. But no, what I would say to you is not good luck. I say, I hope you chant good japa, because if you don't, you're finished. That's what I would say to you. But that's what Prabhupada said in the purport. He said, you have so many stories in Shastra of yogis who fell down because of attraction to beautiful women or because of anger. They're just especially women, it's just I don't want to fault you women anyway, but it's not your fault that you're beautiful. It's just the way Krishna made you. But so many stories, right? Where someone's doing penance, austerity, and some apsara comes and he hears her ankle bell and he's like, what's this? Right? And he's had his eyes closed for 60,000 years. And one ankle bell gets him to open his eyes. Hare Krishna. Right? And then here's the apsara. And he's like, oh my God, I have to have you. After 60,000 years of meditation, just finished. And this is Maya, millions of times more beautiful. And Thakur Haridas is like, sorry, not interested. So Prabhupada says in the purport that it's because of the holy name that only Thakur Haridas could do that. He says, nobody else does it. Everyone else is, those who are munis and sages, they have a hard time. But here, when you have the holy name, you chant it without offense, you're good to go. That was the idea. So, yeah. So let's finish reading. The Vaishnava sannyasis who are engaged in devotional service are happy in the discharge of their transcendental duties, and they have the guarantee of ultimate entrance in the kingdom of God. The Mayavadi sannyasis sometimes fall down from the path of self-realization and again enter into material activities of a philanthropic and altruistic nature, which are nothing but material engagements. That's because they've got nothing to do. Therefore, the conclusion is that those who are engaged in Krishna consciousness, Krishna conscious activities are better situated than the sannyasis engaged in simple speculation about what is Brahman and what is not Brahman, although they too come to Krishna consciousness after many, many births. Bhagavad-gītā chapter 7, Bahunam Janmanamante, after many, many births. But why waste your time? You can go directly. So now, I want to take this maybe in a less philosophical direction. I think we've covered the philosophy, and maybe a little more in a practical direction. So, Raso Vajam Rasopiyasya. We know that verse, Bhagavad-gītā, when you get a taste, you give up the lower taste. When you get the healthy sweet ball, you give up the unhealthy candy, right? So, how important is it to have a taste, and how do you get it? Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say it's 11. Because without a taste, what are you going to do? You're going to eat the candy because you got to eat something, right? Isn't it? So, it sounds selfish to say, well, I need to get a taste. I need to do something that will give me a taste. It sounds selfish. And it even sounds contradictory to our philosophy, isn't it? Like, well, why should I do something that's going to give me, that's just because I like doing it and I want to do it? Well, if it's material activity, definitely. That's, I'm not going to go out and play basketball today because I think, I need to get a taste. And I'm just cooped up in my office here, No, that's a bit frivolous. I mean, I could say it's good exercise, whatever. But let's just use this as an example of something frivolous. So if I say I am going to play basketball because I feel like it, and, it's okay, what's the problem? Then I might think, well, maybe that's a waste of time, Let's say I've already exercised today, so I just like basketball. So it's a waste of time. But I like to do A, B, or C for Krishna. That's different. That's different because this is for Krishna. So you can be inspired to play basketball, but you can be inspired to do something for Krishna. And that is going to give you a spiritual taste. Basketball will not. But that will give you a spiritual taste, raso varjam, and then raso piyasya. The lower taste you give up. So how important is it? Absolutely important. Now you might say, but won't the taste come by advancing? And the answer is yes. Ruchi is a stage of Krishna consciousness. It comes after nishta. But here's the problem. As you advance, you're going to come to a stage. Ladies and gentlemen, someday you're going to come to a stage in your life where there's nothing that gives you a taste like devotional service. Nothing in this world have any taste that could match with devotional service. That's called the stage of ruchi, right? So then you're thinking, okay, it sounds good. So I should just do whatever until I get to the stage of ruchi. Problem. On the way to ruchi, if you're not inspired in devotional service by what you're doing, you may give it up, and then you never get to ruchi. That's the problem, right? I will quote Sachinandan Swami, since this is a class for devotees in Germany. Yeah, good, yeah. My dear devotees. Yeah, I can't, I don't want to imitate, but how long can you go on chanting without taste? And his point was, you can't. So I'll say, I need a taste. Oh, Prabhu, you're so selfish. You just want to taste the holy name. That's not right. Okay. From one angle of vision, you could say, yeah, that's not right. But what am I trying to taste? Right? I'm not chanting for sense gratification. I'm not chanting just because I feel good. That's not why I chant. I'm chanting to taste my relationship with Krishna. I want that taste. I need to get that taste. And I will get that taste if I chant properly. So wanting to chant properly to get that taste, which is a spiritual taste, that's good. I need that, because if I don't have that, how will I chant long enough and well enough and stick around long enough till I actually get to the stage of ruchi? Right? It's like someone says, Prabhu, I smoke cigarettes. And if I chant Hare Krishna, will I stop smoking? And I'll say, yeah. Well, I've been chanting for 10 years and I'm still smoking. Or maybe you need to go to a 12-step program because, you want to wait another 10 years? I mean, it'll work. Maybe not in this lifetime, maybe the next lifetime. So, you have to be practical. So, we know by nature, there's certain things that we do that inspire us. I know from experience that whenever I chant shlokas, I get all warm and fuzzy. It just makes me feel like I just left the material world. I love it. It's like any shloka. I don't even have to know what it means. It's just chant it. It's like, wow, I feel transcendental. So knowing that, I know it's good for me to chant shlokas. I just recorded all the Bhagavad-gītā verses for the Bhakti Shastri course last week. And we're just testing it out to see if we want to make any adjustments, and we can put it out on Facebook. But when I was doing that, I was like, this is so sweet. This is so nice. Just, if I have to record it over 100 times, no problem. I'll just keep chanting. Right? So that may not be you. For you, it might be cooking for Krishna. That's for me, cooking is like, that's it. I'm in the spiritual world when I cook. For someone, it's like doing business. I love to make money. I want to build temples for Krishna, make millions of dollars. I know how to make money. I love it. I could do it 15 hours a day. Yeah, just do it about 10. That would be better. But you know what I'm saying, just don't go crazy, So Prabhupada said something really interesting. So pay attention, because this is, it's almost like, yeah, of course, but at the same time, it's kind of deep. Prabhupada said, if you are inspired in your service, you will be inspired in your sadhana. It will spill over to your sadhana. Like I love what I'm doing. I'm so inspired. Your japa is just going to get better. You're going to get up earlier. You're going to be alive, right? If you're doing service, which is not inspiring, it can show up in your japa. Have you ever noticed that, Malini? Did that ever happen to you? Yeah. I don't like my service. That's so boring. Let me chant my rounds. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. I'm so enlivened in my service. I love it. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Isn't it? It's just like they go together. So it's a very important statement. Now you're saying, but Prabhupada always talked about pure devotional service. You just do whatever the guru wants, this and that. What does he want you to do? Well, he's given you hundreds of things you can do. You can write, you can read, you can teach, you can sing, you can paint, you can manage, you can sculpt, you can write plays, you can act in plays. It's just go down the list, right? So, of course, Prabhupada, he gave us specific activities, open temples, distribute books, deity worship, so on and so forth. But within that, there's room for everyone to express themselves. And so one time Prabhupada said that actually this Krishna doesn't need this service. It's actually for you. This service is for you. It's like Krishna's not like sending messages to the guru. you have any artists down there? I need an artist, I need a picture of myself. No, it's not like that. Have any kirtaniyas down there? I need a kirtan. I'm like, I really need to hear my name right now. It's just like, if I don't hear my name, it's over for me. No, he doesn't need it. He allows us to do it, right? So it's important to understand that until we're more advanced, these services are really important for us. Therefore, it's important to do something that inspires us. And when we are inspired, we have that taste, it then trickles down, spills over into our sadhana. And when you're inspired and you have taste, guess what? You know what you do? You shop less. Have you noticed that? You noticed that? There's one devotee, she wrote me, she's a dancer, and she can teach dancing, she's really good, etc. But she said, I'm addicted. It's a certain kind of dancing. She said, I'm addicted to it. So we have these discussions like what to do about it. So she started doing Bharatanatyam, and she liked that and this and that. And then she started going on book distribution. And then she wrote me, said, I lost my desire to dance. I go, wow, it was like the biggest addiction in her life. It's going to be temporary, but still, she got such a taste for book distribution. It was like, okay, have you ever had that experience? Like you do something and it's so like amazing. You're just like these other things that I just need to do this or I'll die. You forget about them for a while. So, whatever it is that inspires you, whether it's book distribution or dancing or writing, reading, it's really important. Now, you say, what if you're a brahmachari in the temple? You're just supposed to do whatever your temple president says. Yeah. And if you have a good temple president, he'll figure out what inspires you. So, so you can surrender totally your temple president, but he knows how to engage you and inspire you. So Prabhupada was good at that, engaging, right? So that is something which should be understood in context. It's not selfish because it's not sense gratification. It's not selfish because it will help you in Krishna consciousness. If you're engaged in services that inspire you, it will help your sadhana, as we said. So I think this is really some important information to extract from this purport, because Prabhupada keeps making this point. And I think Satyananda Swami's statement is it's just what he's seen. You're supposed to go on, just do anything, pure devotional service, but if you're making offenses to the holy name, if you're not in the right consciousness, if you don't know how to associate, where are you going to get your taste from, right? If you're not properly engaged in the right ashram, the right varna, you won't be able to go on just based on knowledge and determination. Well, I know I should go on, but I don't have a taste. Yeah, the Mayavadis know they should go on, and they all give it up because they can't do it. That's the idea. So that's what I wanted to say. And now we could open it up for questions. I know you were thinking I'd go another 15 minutes. I don't, I think I don't have anything else I want to add to this. So I think it would be good to do questions now.
Yeah, I have a little comment because you were wondering who sent the prostitute. I looked it up, and the marvelous Google search engine said it's Ramachandra Khan.
Ramachandra Khan. Okay, I have another question for you to look at. Is Ramachandra Puri and Ramachandra Khan two different people?
I would have to Google that. I don't know.
Yeah, let us know.
And Gabriela Delgado writes, I left my Netflix addiction. Congratulations.
What did she say? I left my what?
Netflix.
Netflix. Okay, one down, and how many to go? How many more addictions to give up?
Saving some money in the process. When you leave your Netflix addiction, you can cancel your subscription and save like, I don't know, $8 a month or something. So yeah, if any one of you has a question, you can either type it into the chat box if you're too shy to speak, or you could just unmute yourselves and say something. because we're not hundreds of people on this in this meeting. So yeah, why not just unmute yourselves? I know there are some people here, some devotees here who like to ask questions usually. Yeah, maybe you can just unmute yourselves. And
I have a comment for Gabriela that it's interesting because what you give up now, you may be able to use later. You know, so like sometimes there may be something on Netflix which would be useful for your service, but maybe now it's like, well, I don't want to go on Netflix because then I'll click on something else if I watch that. But when you're more advanced, then it's like, yeah, I'm just going to go on to watch this one thing because I want to learn this. So, you know, you go through stages. So sometimes you reuse what you renounce, but you have to be careful that you're no longer attracted to it. And we have the dancer with us, Christy, who became totally renounced by distributing Prabhupada's books. And she wants nothing else but Krishna now. Book distribution is quite powerful. I can attest to that as well. How can we find which service inspires me? Ask your mother. Seriously, ask your mother and say, what did I do? What did I like to do when I was growing up? Yeah. Oh, you were always taking things apart and putting them together and then taking them apart and putting them together again and adding things to it and creating new things. Oh, okay. Maybe that means, then he says, well, what should I do? Maybe it means you're supposed to knock the temple building down and build a new temple. I don't know. You have to then decide. But this is funny that I say this, but in one class I said this and a devotee said, yeah, exactly right. And he went and talked to his mother because I got it. She told me exactly, you know. In answer to questions like this, sometimes it's just reflection. And sometimes it's engaging in different services. When we have so many services, sometimes you don't even know. You just do everything, you know. And sometimes someone goes on book distribution, like, I love it. And then 7 years later, they go, I can't go out another day, you know. So, right, that was a good 7 years. And then after 7 years, they realize, well, the reason I loved it is because I like to talk, but I don't like to interrupt people who are walking down the street. So I want to give lectures, I want to do TED Talks, you know. So it's just it can evolve, you know, if you kind of hone in on what it is that you like to do, you know, like you may have a guitar and write songs, but actually you're really a speaker. You're just doing it through the guitar. And you go, why do I like writing songs? Because I'm a speaker, I have a message. So, do I want to sing songs the rest of my life, or do I want to, give lectures or whatever? You evolve by just finding little points of what inspires you. In Amsterdam, we did a course on this. Melanie was there, to find what really, and a lot of you, I think in the course, I think you, Melanie, you already knew, and it was just what's the word? Reaffirmation. It was affirming what you already knew, right? Wasn't that your experience? You already knew it, more or less, kind of, sort of.
I think it just came from the heart, and later on I was wondering where that all came from, and now it makes sense.
Oh, okay. So it was there. It was there, and it had to pop up. Yeah. Sometimes it's like that. I sometimes think that because we think if I want to connect with something I like to do, it's sense gratification, it's selfish, we just bury it. But we have to remember, here's one of the most profound things you will hear in class today. It's only sense gratification when it's sense gratification. Wow, that was deep, Prabhu. I like saying things which are so simple that they're as deep as the ocean because they're so simple. It's only sense gratification when it's sense gratification. Wow, I never would have thought of that before, right? But you understand what I'm saying. So we what's my nature? I don't know. Maybe we're afraid that if it's just something I like doing. All right, fine, do it for Krishna. You're safe. It's not sense gratification if you do it for Krishna, right? Maybe someday Gabriela will have a service to study various topics, and the documentaries are on Netflix, and she'll be on Netflix the rest of her life. But now she's okay because it's not sense gratification. Although there is a kind of sense gratification in Krishna consciousness. And it's like, don't you think for an artist, like to paint the deities is like the highest form of sense gratification they could ever like imagine, isn't it? Don't you think? Or like a poet to write a poem about Krishna. I mean, like what's like more sense gratification than that? Or a manager who loves to manage a project for Krishna. So in a sense, it is a form of sense gratification of the highest degree, but it's completely Krishna conscious. So, you know, you like to cook, what's higher than cooking for the deities? Like, it doesn't get any better than that. You like to sing for the deities. That's like the highest sense gratification for a singer. You know, I once had the opportunity to sing at a festival, and there were 4,000 people. It was the midnight artik at Janmashtami, and we had this like amazing sound system, and it was like, wow. And I think it was on television also. It was like, wow. But I would take being alone, no one even hearing me singing in front of the deities, a million times over to that. That's like the ultimate sense gratification. You know, because you can use it for Krishna. So, yes. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I have a question.
Okay.
Please accept well obeisances. The thing is, you have explained a lot of hard topics with your nice and sweet words and nice humor. I really like that. The thing is, Prabhuji, what I feel, as devotees or as aspiring devotees, it's like chanting, reading, hearing, all of those things are there. So, but for me, after a time period, let's say after a time period, it gets really hard for me to continue the thing on that specific day. So let's say I have.
You mean the chanting and the sadhana? You're talking about sadhana to keep your sadhana steady? On some days are harder than others. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and the thing is that I would like to read like for half an hour, but my mind says like, yeah, you have already read two verses two verses already, so just stop it there. You have you
have more important things to do. Is that what your mind says?
Invested a lot of time already there, so do something, do that, those unimportant things.
Oh yeah, I think that's your mother speaking. Is your mother a devotee or not? I think it's your mother. Why waste time on this spiritual life? Just go to university and get a PhD and be famous and rich. You think there's some of that in there that's like going on behind you saying, you know, this spiritual, like you don't put too much time into it because it's, you know, it gets in the way of your material life. Because, you know, the Indian mothers are like that unless they're devotees. And even some devotee mothers are a little bit like that. So that's the conditioning part of it. When you're more advanced, it'll flip the other way. You'll be working like hard to be successful, and you'll be thinking, why am I working so hard? I could be reading Bhagavatam. It'll turn around. So you want to get it to turn around. And the funny part of the answer is if you just read Prabhupada's books more, it'll turn around. But you can't solve it unless you read the books more. Because the books will convince you that spiritual life is more important than material life. Isn't that funny? Yeah.
So the thing is, how can I like convince myself or like motivate myself to read or like chant more? Or
it's not even, that's not the problem. That's a symptom of the not reading enough is a symptom of the problem of not giving enough importance to your spiritual life, thinking that your material life will in some way suffer if you give too much energy to your spiritual life. Because if you're saying, I read 2 shlokas and that's enough, to me, that's like appetizer, you know? Okay, now let's like get into it, you know? to me, like 2 hours is like, if you don't read 2 hours, you're like, forget it, how can you be Krishna conscious if you don't study, at least a few hours a day? That's me personally, but I'm reoriented. And I was never a person who thought that putting 15 hours a day into your material life is really what human life is meant for. But as we grow up in this society, basically that's what they're telling us. Between, like when you're a student, I don't know if you're a student now, but when you were a student, I'm sure you put in 15-hour days. And Sumit says, 15 hours, that was a short day. It's more like 18 hours. Actually, I used to sleep in the library, so, and all the other students are doing it. And if you don't do it, you feel guilty. And then someone's going to do better than you. And then they'll get the job at Google instead of you. And on and on and on. Isn't it? More or less? Yeah. I mean, so that's the problem. And the 2 shlokas is just a symptom of that problem. Because there must be all kinds of guilt. If I read more than 2 shlokas, I could be reading my, book on how to find bugs in software, get a better job or something. Isn't it? And then this is, so we have to reorient that and think human life is meant for becoming Krishna conscious. Whether I become the best this or that in the material world doesn't really matter. It's going to be over in a few seconds anyway. And when it's over, the only thing that matters is how Krishna conscious I am. So if you reorient your thinking that way, then automatically you'll just read more or whatever, and it'll be natural, and it's just, like I say, natural. Does that make sense?
Yes, Prabhu, that makes sense. Please bless me, Prabhu. I need a lot of blessings.
Okay.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from Bangladesh, Prabhu.
Bangladesh. Kemon ache? Balo ache. Balo ache. Bangla Janina. Yeah. Your parents devotees or no?
No, Prabhu. My mother chants 16 rounds for like 10, 15 years or more than that, but she's not like maintaining all the 4 regulative principles. Yeah.
So, Bangladesh is a poor country, and now you're in Germany. You studying or you're working?
I'm studying, Prabhu.
Yeah, so that it's obvious to understand that the opportunity you might be the first one in your village or your family or families to ever like make good money if you become successful. So naturally, and you have left so many devotees in Bangladesh who are not materially successful, who spend a lot of time with bhakti. So you add that all up, it's easy to understand. You could be thinking, oh, maybe I need to put more time into my material life than my spiritual life. So for you, it's just balancing it, but always remembering that your spiritual life is what's most important. And your material life will never suffer if you become more Krishna conscious. It'll just make it easier, actually. That's what I think. Does that relate? Do you think you agree with that, or more or less, or?
Yes, so I agree with that.
Yeah. So now let me tell you my background. Maybe this will help you. I was raised in a family that gave me everything I wanted. It actually gave me more than I wanted. So when I became college age, it was like, forget all this material life. Who cares? So I was like for spiritual life, the way, an average Bangladeshi would be for material life. I was like the opposite. I was like, 99 on the spiritual side and 1% on the material side. It was just a different upbringing, right? So, but the real thing is to be balanced with it. At least a little more spiritual than material, you're okay. When the spiritual goes under, this is the spiritual goes under, then you have a problem. Because it's not, the material is important up to a point, but not important enough to minimize your spiritual life. That's the idea. Correct? And we all have that problem, not just you, even the devotees born in Germany or wherever, we have that problem also, because we have jobs or education, priorities. Should I do this? Should I do that? And we can get carried away sometimes, right? what color should I paint my room? Well, you could spend like 10 hours thinking about the color of our room, you know? Then go buy the paint and then get mental. Oh, I'm not sure I want that. Then take the paint back, and material life is like that. It'll just occupy you unlimitedly if you allow it, isn't it? It's dangerous down here, ladies and gentlemen. You have to be careful because you can get engulfed. And the more you get engulfed, the more you get engulfed, and it never ends. And you'll die with 108 plans you never finished. That's what it's like, isn't it? Yeah, and so Prabhupada's point is, why don't you just plan to go back to Godhead? That's the plan. That's the plan, everyone. Go back to Godhead. And on the way, you educate yourself, do what you have to do. I was going to joke, Sumit, I was going to joke with you, actually. I was going to get the other answer, because I could tell you're like really busy and studying. The other answer is, well, just move in the brahmacharya ashram. Then you wouldn't have this question to ask. You'd have hours to read every day. Anyway, that's a joke, but it's only a half joke. It's also a possibility. Anyway,
we don't have a brahmacharya ashram here in Berlin, so
okay. Well, when he moves in, he'll create one.
Why not? So yeah, we have two more questions or remarks to conclude. By Gabriela, is it okay to create service alternatives for new devotees who are a little depressed and with too much mental confusion, who are searching for life goals or a life purpose in Krishna consciousness? In this case, which are the correct steps? With what should I begin, and with what should I be careful?
Are you talking, what do you mean by alternative services? She's going to answer. Can she unmute? Is that possible? Or is it closed?
She can.
Yes, I can.
Okay,
I
okay.
can that. There isn't many possibilities of services here, and also the temple is closed, and also it's closed by the quarantine. So
okay, all right, yeah. Okay, so I think we give a general principle. The more people are engaged, the better, in whatever way you can construe to engage them. And the only thing to look at is that when you say sometimes people are disturbed or depressed, the only thing to look at is that sometimes those kinds of people can end up depressing you because they want all your time and energy, and they don't actually improve. So you just have to be a little careful that, the people that you're trying to help are actually getting better and not draining you and, becoming like, yeah, you understand, right? So we want to see that whoever we're helping is we can actually help, because if we can't, if they have other problems that need addressing, maybe by in other ways, and we can't help, then we're putting energy in. It's not helping us, and it's not helping them. But yes, everyone should be engaged any way you can engage them. As Prabhupada said, the service is not as important as the fact that it's service. Whether it's cleaning a car or sweeping a floor, or typing up a database or whatever they like doing, engage them. And the Prabhupada would say in the very beginning, when he was teaching us how to engage people, he said, just find out what they like to do and engage them. Because the point is, being engaged is spiritual activity, and they'll get purified. So find out what they'd like to do. What do you like to do? What I find is really good, like transcribing lectures, because they have to listen to the lecture, whether it's transcribing from one language to another or just transcribing in the same language. And then taking that, or, watch this video, and then cut it up into little pieces that you think would really be nice for people to hear. So they have to listen to everything and then think, what's the best part? And then they write down the timestamp, and then some video editor makes up videos from it. Things like, so you can think of what would be good for them, you know, if they need to learn, that would be a good service, right? Or whatever they like to do.
And we have one last questions by Pramod Kumaresh. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I would like to start reading Prabhupada's books. Which book would you recommend for a beginner?
Bhagavad-gītā, but it's always good to read with other devotees. Or I could give you another answer. As Prabhupada said, my books are sweet. My books are like a sweet ball. Any side you bite is sweet. Nectar Devotion is very good because it shows you, it teaches you so much. Bhagavad-gītā is the basis of our philosophy. Nectar Devotion is more practical. It's hard to say, you know, it's kind of like going to cafeteria and asking me, what should I eat? Well, that's good. And that's good. And that's because I'm thinking in my mind, well, you should read Srimad Bhagavatam also. Bhagavad-gītā, Srimad Bhagavatam, Nectar of Devotion. And if you're really into philosophy, well, you can wait on Chaitanya Charitamrita. But Prabhupada gave teachings of Lord Chaitanya in 1969. So if you're really into Lord Chaitanya, you should read Chaitanya Charitamrita. So basically, it's all Prabhupada's books. But, you know, we want to be grounded in Bhagavad-gītā for sure. But I guess you're studying that now. So Nectar Devotion, Srimad Bhagavatam. And if you want general information, like books like Science of Self-Realization, just to get to know Prabhupada a little better. And you should read Prabhupada Lilamrita. And you should hear all the memories of Srila Prabhupada. That's important. You want to read Prabhupada's books, but you also want to learn about Prabhupada, because sometimes you can't understand his teachings perfectly unless you understand him as a person, because you could misunderstand. Is that okay?
Sydney Knoll commented, Sri Ishopanishad.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Nectar of Instruction. I mean, where do you start? Where do you stop? Nectar of Instruction, Sri Ishopanishad, Nectar of Devotion, Bhagavad-gītā. Yeah, you can start there. And for dessert, Srimad Bhagavatam. The movement, Pramod, the movement was started with Bhagavad-gītā. That was the only book. We had Bhagavatam, but nobody read it because we didn't know what it was. And teachings of Lord Chaitanya was all like too esoteric. So basically, the whole movement grew up on Bhagavad-gītā for a few years.
Okay, I think with that we shall conclude, since I don't see any further questions. So, and also time is a bit, when I'm not saying that we're late, but we're kind of, we have exceeded our quota, or have, people have other things to do maybe. And yeah, it was very nice to hear from you. And it was also very nice to have the interactive Q&A session with the different participants who are asking questions live and via the chat box. So, and I think that I speak on behalf of all the other people who are devotees who have been here on this call. We would love to hear from you again on another verse of the Bhagavad-gītā, as it is sometime in the future. And we would be very glad to have you with us again.
Thank you.
And with that, thank you.
You may have me again in person also before,
yeah.
You know. There's a rumor I'm going to Poland, but I don't know if it's through Berlin. I'm not sure.
Well, if you happen to be in the area on August the 21st, we plan to have our Ratha Yatra.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So,
that's nice.
And we
How's
just bring
COVID?
you. We just bring you through Berlin. I mean, Poland is so close.
I know. I know.
We will arrange.
I'll ride my bicycle from Poland to Berlin, right?
Oh, we will arrange. No worries. Somehow.
Yeah. If I go, I may not go. I don't know, but it's being discussed. Depending on like what, you know, if everyone gets sick at Rath Yatra, then we know, okay, it's too early, you know, something like that. Okay, I'm going to go take lunch. I've been giving class since 8 o'clock this morning, 8:30. We just did a japa program for the UAE, and that was ecstatic. And then I came back and joined a japa group, and then I came back and gave this class. And now my stomach says, you need to eat lunch. You always have to listen to your stomach when it's hungry, right? Isn't that proper medical advice? Don't go too long hungry. Yeah.
You probably you definitely deserve to have lunch.
Plus,
So-
I was drinking ginger tea, so you can imagine. Yeah, everything's ready to go now. There's only one problem. There's nothing to eat in my house, so I have to make something. So my wife has been gone all morning. So anyway.
Okay, thank you very much. And
You're welcome.
Have a nice day.
We'll
Enjoy
see
your
you.
lunch. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
See
You
you again.
too.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol, Jai Prabhupada.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna.
Maharaj, thank you.